When you have a history of greatness, the real challenge starts after the finish line. When victory alone isn't enough, you chase something greater, no matter how difficult the path. On the dirt, in the sand, and beyond. The new 2024 Ridgeline Passport and Pilot, part of our most rugged trail sport lineup yet. From Honda.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it very, very much. Very glad to have with us Councilwoman Kim Chauvin. Kim, thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it too.
All right, you got it. Of course, Kim is Representative District 8, and it's one of those things that there's passion for helping and serving, and then there's passion for making sure that we're helping people do what they're supposed to do. And so there's where our job meets our job, right?
Yes.
And it's some of these you've been doing for your entire life. I appreciate you running and representing District 8, but you've been standing up for the rights of our seafood industry ever since I can remember.
Yeah, you try and go back and you look at the years.
Yeah, don't do the math. It's way too many numbers, Kim. Way too many numbers.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, but with you and David being so involved in the seafood industry, and it's not only just being a business owner representing our seafood industry. I love the fact that you are so passionate about making sure that we have things in place that make sense and that we're fighting for the rights of those small business owners who are just trying to make a living and be able to make sure that we're providing this wonderful Louisiana seafood and especially shrimp for our communities and, quite frankly, our nation.
And, the scary part of it is to lose your entire culture and heritage. And we did that with the French speaking.
Yeah.
And we look back, and how many of us go back and say, man, I wish we wouldn't have lost that. I wish that we would have learned it.
Yeah, maintain that somehow.
Yes. And so it's the same with this. Like, nobody just picks up a boat and jumps on it and goes out to the water and knows what they're doing.
Right.
It is truly a way of life. And my passion comes because this is David's passion, my husband's passion. He loves this.
Right.
I mean, listen, he lives for it. It is his thing.
Right.
And I knew that when I married him.
Right.
And I had been shrimping before as, a pastime with my family because my family's in the oil field. And it's just kind of what you do. And so my grandparents were part of that, and then his grandparents and his parents. So it's a big thing.
Well, and it's generational.
Yes.
Right. And we see that in time. We see some of those people that went to school with us sometime and then didn't because they were either because they had to or because they wanted to fulfill that commitment to their family and their family business by going out and trawling for a living. And it's people's livelihoods that are very important. But there's guidelines and restrictions that happen and have happened that we have to make changes that we do. But we got to make sure that the people who are making decisions are doing what they say they're going to do too.
Correct.
Right.
And listen, one of the things is that people don't understand when we lose the seafood industry, if we would ever lose the seafood industry, your loss of fresh seafood into this community is gone.
Yeah.
Do we want to see that go?
No, and it's so valuable,
right?
And not just here, but I mean, so valuable to the state. We ship out nationally, right? Sometimes internationally,
right?
And so, very, very important. And so, there's been some changes here lately.
Right.
Explain that to us a little bit, maybe, if you could, about some of the things that have been changing or proposed.
So, we've had to bring a anti-dumping case to the Department of Commerce, which costs millions of dollars, sadly, to the industry. So we have a number of processors that put up so much money during this time, and our group put up a good chunk of money, and it is to get them to do what is necessary to bring a fair, level playing field. But you can only do that if Commerce votes in your favor.
Okay.
And we have to show that we were hurt as an industry. And God, Keith, I looked at him. I'm like, if you don't see it, then you've got to be blind.
Yeah, you're turning a blind eye if you don't see it, right?
Yeah.
Because the facts are truly there.
Oh, yeah.
About the impacts that have happened.
Well, you could even see just in the amount of shrimp that's come through from 21 to 23.
Okay.
In the imports and stuff. But anyway, so the Commerce Department voted in our favor.
Right.
So now that means that the duties that they have come to, that will be in effect for the countries of Ecuador, Indonesia, India, and Vietnam. And that's only 4 countries that produce that shrimp, that form the shrimp and bring it in.
And they import that here.
And they import it here, and it's because our dollar is stronger here. And because our federal government subsidizes them. So how fair is it to the American people or the American fishermen that not only is your own tax dollars subsidizing them, you have to fight to get a fair playing field.
Right.
And so that's what it is at this point.
Right. And so now there's going to be duty taxes placed on those imported shrimp.
But that is only if customs and agencies do their due diligence,
if you will, right?
But it will be up to us and Senator Cassidy and Senator Kennedy and our entire delegation to make sure that those agencies do their job.
Right.
And make sure that that's brought in,
right.
Those duties brought in. Now, that doesn't come to the shrimp industry.
No.
That goes into the general fund.
Right.
So,
But the secondary gain for us is that people are now going to become hopefully, a little more dependent upon Louisiana shrimp that is not being taxed in that way. Right. So we're hoping to have the trickle down, if you will.
Correct.
To help and assist our Louisiana fishermen, our Louisiana trawlers in being able to help them and their families being able to do that by not making it so much easier for other people. We're basically paying them to bring in shrimp that is really taking the place of what we have here.
Well, and then you look in, I think we looked at one of the countries that was like so many millions of slaves there.
Exactly.
Slaves there doing the shrimp
doing
industry.
that work.
Yeah.
And so we need to support our people who are doing it right now.
Yeah.
Slave work that's being done. So much more to talk about. Thank you for sticking around a little bit longer. And so we appreciate that. Guys, we're going to take a short break. Take that with us. When we come back, Councilwoman Kim Chauvin. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bayou Time. Again, your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Thank you for joining us. Very glad my friend and colleague, Councilwoman Kim Chauvin is joining us as well. Kim, just talking about the shrimping industry and the impact and some of those things. We're talking about some of those 4 countries that they are now going to be placed more taxes on to be able to send shrimp in. There have been some changes about even being able to determine or knowing where shrimp is coming from, right?
Yes. So we have a company now that I think the Shrimp Task Force has given money to or contracting them out to go into restaurants. And it doesn't matter if it's raw or cooked.
Right.
They can now tell where it comes from. So, and it makes it fair to the restaurants that are doing the right thing. They're buying local.
Right.
I've heard restaurants say this. We hear a lot of restaurants say buy local, eat local. Do everything local. Yet you're buying imported seafood, and so how are you're competing with us?
Right.
So we want to make this a level playing field for them too, which is to come into some of the restaurants, and there's going to be testing done. And as you know, I think there was a Louisiana Shrimp and Petroleum Festival got caught.
Right.
Now, I've been going there for a number of years, number of decades, and it's been the same thing. It's been a lot of imports into it. And so there are some changes that they can make to do these things to make sure that they are I guess, purporting what they have, like Louisiana shrimp.
Right.
Is there a motto? Then have it.
Right.
Don't have stuff from India.
Right.
But so
and don't do false advertising.
Right. And that's been a big part of it, because we already have a menu labeling law. So adhere to it.
Right.
That's what we're asking you to do. Adhere to it. People have a choice.
Transparency.
You have a choice.
Right.
You can eat the imported junk.
That import,
Or you can, or you can get the good stuff,
Right.
And that's okay. But one of the things that people need to realize is, even with Commerce Department doing this, going in our favor, it takes time to move all that shrimp out of cold storage. And let me tell you, these countries jam-packed our freezers. They knew, like in 2021, they had went up by a 20% increase, and they were at already $2 billion in importing shrimp into our country. Okay. 2022, they came down because we had already started talking about it.
Right.
We started talking about the anti-dumping. 2023 really came down because we were at it. We were already starting with the paperwork. So even in going for this anti-dumping case, it took us a good year to a year and a half to get through this, because the administration that is there now kept giving leeway to the other countries, like 30 days here, 30 days there. And so it gave on way more time for them. So that's kind of where we're at there. It'll take us some time to get through that, and for it to trickle down to where we could have a better price on that part of it.
Very good. Now, speaking of better prices, I'm hoping that people are going to be able to get better prices, because we come to the holiday season when people in our area would tend to use more shrimp.
So
seafood.
Yes. And listen, I implore people to definitely use our local shrimp and our local crabs and fish and everything above on that part of it. It is important that we support the local communities. And so in that, there are a lot of shrimp that are sold during this time, but our season is kind of waning off. But we do have shrimp that is available year round. And so, that's a big deal for us, because we do our freezing of our shrimp, and so we make sure that we have something for the entire year long, and keeping restaurants supplied and seafood companies supplied in this area. And so that's really important,
because big season, May season, August season, those are the big high times. That's when we're harvesting all of that shrimp, and when it's coming in, and getting those fishermen and those trawlers to be able to bring that shrimp in, being able to provide that. And again, y'all have a process for how to be able to freeze that and keep it. And I love the idea that there's this transparency and technology that's going to be able to go into a restaurant that says that they're selling local shrimp, to be able to go in, test it, and go, you are. Good for you.
Yes.
And then you know what? They're going to be supported. Because I can promise you, everywhere I go, I make sure that I'm supporting local economies, local communities.
One of the things that we're doing is I want to work with the lieutenant governor on the marketing part of this, because we need to really push those restaurants and seafood venues that are using our local products, and that's important to me. And I already do it on my social media. I'll let people know where to go get local seafood at restaurants and stuff. I have people that call me all the time or text me and give that information, so it's important.
Good. And I know people in your district are worried about that. They're asking about that. It's good you want to work with Billy about that. He's pretty open to making sure that things are done the right way.
Yeah, and he's very open to working with us in the shrimp industry and doing what needs to be done on those fronts, and especially getting it out there, because if you look at a lot of the marketing that goes on, he always includes the seafood industry into it on those parts.
Yeah. How are things going in District 8?
They're going well. I mean, they're going well for some things.
Right.
My roads. Not so much.
Well, listen, we've been talking about it, Kim. I want you to know it's come up. We've been talking about that. It's been a focal point, and I'm very glad that you've been very vocal about that, because people are hearing you.
Yes.
And we're making plans to get those addressed, which is nice. So it's in the works.
Yes. The hard part is waiting, because we are like riding through minefields when you come down Bayou Side Drive, and it's a certain portion of Bayou Side Drive, and it's a real disservice to the people that live in that area. So my thing is to try and figure out how to get it done as soon as possible.
And again, making sure they're hearing you, and they are. And so I want you to know that through here, we've been talking about it, and District 8 is certainly going to get a whole lot more respect about what's coming. It's just about trying to be patient to get the work done. It's like the shrimp; these things don't happen right away. It doesn't. We don't get the roads fixed right away. We got to get the monies and get them approved.
It's super frustrating for me.
Yeah.
On that
Well,
part.
we know that you're working on that. So, Kim, thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it. Thanks for your passion for making sure things are done right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. All right, guys, that'll do it for this particular Bayou Time segment, but don't go anywhere. Got a whole lot more right here on HTV.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.